so desired, for this very heart you have shaped for your pleasure, purpose to lift your name high. Give your head.
Beloved, it's another wonderful day the Lord has given us. Rejoice and be glad. Welcome, and I know that God is fully geared up to bless your life today. My name is Big Sam on Christian Focus right here, UBC TV. I want to thank you all the time. Those of you that keep on sending us messages, thank you so very much. Our social media ferns that watch the programs that we put on YouTube, man, may God richly bless you. Some people write to me and they tell me how blessed they are by the summons that keep on coming. It's your prayers that make us come back every other time. And I'm sure that God always brings relevant people that will speak into your conditions, and your life will not be the same again. Now, today is also very, very special because I'm hosting a man that I've actually grown to love every other time. Bishop Simon Peter Emiau from Pentecostal Assemblies of God. He is right here, and he's going to be talking about a building on moral excellency. It's very important. We hear this word moral, and we don't know what it's all about, and we also pair it with the word excellency. Now, words that are coming from moral and excellence are going to be clearly put down by Bishop Simon Peter. But before that, there is a word of wisdom. As it's our norm right here on Christian Focus, we tease you and give you an uprap of word of wisdom. Up next.
Give your head.
Today on Christian Focus, our word of wisdom is focused on that particular area of your life that you're wondering, which one is this? Now, listen to this carefully. The world has a habit of making room for a man who is on action, whose actions show that they know where they are going. Let me say it again. The world has got a habit of making room for the man that his actions show that he is on the go and he knows where he's going. My dear, some things are not shaping up for your life because you don't even know why you're doing what you do. You don't even know where you're heading up to. That's why things are not shaping up. That's why people that are supposed to be relevant in your life, they're supposed to be friends to you, are not. Why? Because they don't see value of your end. I'm asking you one question. When you wake up in the morning, what do you see yourself achieving? What do you see yourself accomplishing? Because if you don't see where you're going, you are bound not to receive any room. For this world will only make room for that man and that woman that have seen clearly their end and they start pursuing it. And maybe the reason why you're not doing what you're supposed to do is because you don't even know what you want to be tomorrow, where you want to end. You remember, even when you want to get married, you must see the end before you start it. Even that business you want to start, you want to see the end of it in the vision before you start it. So it clearly shapes your character. It shapes your talk. It shapes you. Even the ministry that you want to have, you want to see it at the end before you start it. Because when you start it, it shapes your character. It shapes your friends. My dear, room is there, but you need to know where you're going. That's your word of wisdom today on Christian Focus. One more time, thank you very much for joining us. For those of you that have just joined us for the first time, I'm having a man that I've grown to adore and love. He is the presiding bishop of Pentecostal Assemblies of Uganda and is none other than Bishop Simon Peter Emiau. Thank you very much for joining us.
God, it's a pleasure always to be at UBC and Big Sam, just to be with you.
Every time you come on the show, you always challenge my life. You always speak words, and I'm like, have I heard that before? And you just put it there plain like how it is. And I want to thank you. I really want. The last time we were together, you were talking about the do's and don'ts and how people are supposed to balance their lives between the spiritual life and the physical life. And you know, sometimes I was thinking, so is it satanic for someone who is a Christian to go to the field and jog? And you put it so clear that no, if you don't take care of your body, you will not handle the spiritual.
No, no.
So that was very, very
that body is
good.
necessary.
That was very good.
Thank you.
That was very good. And of course, it was a challenge to all the pastors, ministers out there who do too much of the talk and they don't balance it with, their families and all other things. Take a time to balance. And this is, he says, that has been a very good lesson through this COVID-19 situation. We should calm down a little bit and get our lives, physical lives, together. Now, today we want to talk about building a moral excellency. Building moral excellency. And of course, we were sharing about it. And in your own words, I know you can better talk about it and give it straight a go.
Well, it's a pleasure to be back with you, Big Sam,
Yes,
and for the crew here, and to be with all of you, our viewers.
Yes.
It's always exciting to know somebody somewhere is listening. And thanks for the feedbacks you have always sent on my phone.
Yes.
And I'm so encouraged that at least one word has helped somebody somewhere.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Again, I'm back. I'm going to be saying some things that might help you. I'm challenged, Big Sam, about my own personal life, but the life of all of us who are pastors especially, but also all our country that is 80% over Christian. That's a Christian nation. We should actually be called a Christian nation.
Yeah, yeah.
And yet, when you look at the morality of our country, it's very low. We have corruption is so high,
So high.
and we're asking ourselves, what's this? What's going on? How can this happen? Are we living real life? Are we where and where? Again, I like to bring up this book.
Which is the food.
Which is the food, but it's also the light. It shines into our hearts and shines into our life, and it's a light unto our feet. A country with 80%, that should be the brightest nation you'll ever think, because our feet would be walking in righteousness and walking in manners that would be able to profit everybody else.
Yes,
so
sir.
that's what concerns me. And I just again reading from this powerful book, The Light Unto Our Feet, and the letter that was written by Apostle Peter.
Yes.
In his second letter, he wrote this letter to exiled guys that gone in exile. And he's writing this letter following them up, making sure wherever they would go, they must grow moral excellence. So people can see a difference between the people of the way and the people ordinarily. Those days they were not called Christians. They were known as people of the way. Following the way of Jesus. Because Jesus had says, I am the way, and the truth and the life. And that needed to be completely seen in the lives of those people. I want to challenge you before we finish up that that's where God is calling us to be models of truth, models of life, and models of excellence. That's what God has called us to. I mean, just reading this verse, and I'll quote a friend of mine, whom you know, a friend of us, all of us, we know this guy. But let me read from 2 Peter.
Yes, sir.
So that helps you to see it. 2 Peter chapter 1, verse 5. For this very reason, he has written so many things. Make every effort to add to your faith. If you don't add to your faith, there's something that's going to happen. And he says, add moral excellence. To moral excellence, add knowledge. To knowledge, add self-control. To self-control, add perseverance. To perseverance, add godliness. To godliness, add brotherly affection.
Yes.
To brotherly affection, unselfish love. For if these things are really yours, are continually increasing, they will keep you from becoming ineffective and unproductive in your pursuit of knowing our Lord Jesus Christ.
That's right.
And more intimately. Amazing. Add. It's a construction language. You got to build this up. I am a fan and the best listener of Martin Luther Jr. And one of his best speeches has only about 4 or 5 minutes he preached. And it has 3 very important things, and I want to highlight to all of us. Martin Luther Jr. is one of the men that said, I want my life to matter. I want my life to be different. I want my life to be remembered. And I can assure you he is remembered.
Yes.
I believe Billy Graham said the same thing. I also believe Mandela, Nelson, said the same things. There are three very important things that I want to quote from these three great men, for their lives are so tremendous. The first thing he says, the deep dignity about your somebodyness. Meaning, the dignity of your life. Are we having respect for the dignity of my life? Do I want my life to have dignity that everybody can say, don't touch? Because it's a dignity of life. That's what Martin Luther said. If you want to be a great person in the world, it is you have to work on your self-dignity. And this is what Peter is talking about. The second thing is the determination to achieve excellence. For anything I do, for any job I am given, for any employment I'm called to, I want to do it with a touch of excellence.
Come on.
Touch of excellence. That's Martin Luther. The third thing he says is, I want to ensure all my life through I'm committed to eternal principles. What are those eternal principles? The principles of love, justice, and peace. Truth. Those are eternal principles. They don't change. Truth does not change.
No
Justice does not change. Love does not change. They don't change. Those are eternal principles. And you can see that Martin Luther is highly remembered today in life. Mandela is highly remembered. You know, and Billy Graham is highly remembered as a man of the church. And he has lived this life. And I'm asking myself over us, many of us in Uganda, the Christians, everybody from our president downwards, they're all Christians. We talk about him, God. Christ is my Lord. That's what we all confess.
That's right.
And it sorrows us. Are we building for dignity? Are we building for excellence? Are we having these eternal principles embedded in us? So you wake up in the morning and your office is just full of justice. Your office is full of love. Your office is just full of peace. Is that happening? We're in a season which is flexing us into knocking one another. Why? And this is, how do we get out of it? Why do we get into it? And how did we get into that? Big Sam, let me tell you the thing. Every human being is constitutionally born a sinner. The constitution of your nature is sinful.
It's sinful.
And that's where our moral decadence comes from. And as we come to Christ, that is what Christ comes to deal with. The innate, we are born constitutionally sinners. That's our moral decadence rises from that. And we find ourselves totally tied and burdened and slaves to sin.
Because we are born into it.
We are born into sin. And there was no remedy. That man we know as Satan really is a corrupter. Because when he went into Adam's life and Eve's life, he corrupted that life from the air to the sole of the feet. He corrupted. There was nothing in Adam left, to the extent that even in the marrow, the blood system of Adam was completely sinful. And that thing is stuck to us, cannot be removed.
Oh my God.
Only Christ can do that and change our hearts. And so, that's a very terrible thing. That's how we got in there. But God has not forgotten us.
That's the good thing.
That's the good news. Somehow, somewhere, God, in the inset of our conscience, He has left something there that is of moral excellence, a dot of it. And so we keep bothered. When we do something which is not right, you feel so bad. When something comes up which is not right, you feel so bad. And you feel guilty in your heart. That's the voice. That's the voice of God. And that's the power of God. That's where God touches us in our life. God touches a sinner in his inside life. So he says there's something you need. There's something you need. There's something that helps you out of this. That is where we get. So the need for moral excellence is greatly embedded and built on us. Now, here is the pointer.
Yes, sir.
Only God is the ground and soil for moral excellence. We want to see men and women of integrity. We want to see servant leadership. We want to see people who are competent. We want to see many of those things. And we look for them. Sometimes we have to give people work and inspect and follow them strictly in order to get what we want. Why are these things not coming naturally? Most of our people are not built, are not planted onto the ground, the moral soil. Pastors, we have our weaknesses. They are side of us. That is not very good. Why? Are we truly rooted? We carry the word of God. Are we rooted in that word? And so my desire tonight is for us to be able to say, look here, where are we planted? In order for you to achieve moral excellency, you've got to be planted on the moral ground.
You got to be rooted, right?
Rooted there. That's why the Bible talks of him. Be rooted in him. Because when we are rooted in him, we get the saps from him, from his life, that now comes and fills and changes us. And people look at and admire us because something has come from the root and from the soil, from the moral ground. And then we are able to bear the fruit of integrity, the fruit of all of this kind. So our moral sources of income, of source is very important. So there is a need for it. There is a hunger. And I want to challenge you out there, my brother, because in your heart, you know how much. Even my friends, the Muslims, you know, there's things in your heart. You feel so bad. There's some law inside your heart. That principle, which Martin Luther followed, is the principle of the law of God. It's built in human heart that tells you there is moral excellency. Yeah. You can never find it anywhere. God is the moral ground for it. And so you must get back to God, and God will be able to build your heart and your life in that. So let me highlight a few things according to what Peter has said here. Peter is telling us very important things. Truth. He says truth is the great thing. I am the truth. You know, one of my excellent thoughts about truth is when Jesus met Pilate. Pilate is the greatest Roman king that helped ask the question, what is truth? And Jesus just did not only respond, he opened his life for Pilate to see. And Pilate saw the truth in him, checked it upside and down. He got out of his seat, walked out to the Jews and said, I find no guilt in this man. I cannot judge him. They insisted. He said, bring the water here.
It was you then.
You can do with him. Because why? He was truth. Now, my friends, truth is so critical in your life. And truth will build a nation. Truth will show us the best way of handling our relationships. Truth will help you understand how your office can function, how your ministry can work, how the church will be able to run, how we handle relationships one with another based on truth. And that's why Jesus says, I am the truth, because that truth is important. Why? Because truth was the title of God himself.
Yes, sir.
According
Yes, sir.
to the Jews.
Yes, sir.
Truth was not only a title of God, but truth was a very important, and it embodied the culture of the kingdom of heaven. We cannot have a kingdom of heaven without truth. The culture of the kingdom of heaven is truth.
It's truth itself.
So, church, that's where we are getting. How do we grow from here to allow the culture of truth that we claim to be, so that people realize the kingdom has come, the kingdom of truth? That's about truth. And that's why Jesus never succumbed to the temptation of the enemy, because he knew he had brought truth. The second thing was holiness. Holiness is a very, very critical thing. Absolute finite, a thing that doesn't change. It reflects the moral life and nature of God. And it's just called uniqueness. How God sets himself aside, becoming unique, is not like anybody else. It's like when you espoused to your friend and you are going to get married. One of the things you are proud about, you are so trusting this lady that she is unique. Not because she's beautiful than any girls on the street, no. But she has decided to set herself aside for you and you alone. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that's what we have done. We have said to Jesus Christ, it's for you alone. That's what you call holiness. And that's what I want to drive your attention to. When you become so unique, you are rare. Nobody else you can't be found anywhere. You are completely, morally perfect. You are permanently for that person, nobody else. Justice is so important for God. Justice, so you balance. How do I get along with everybody? The perfection of his nature, where his infinite righteousness in himself is totally revealed, the justice of God. And that's how good God is. Can you imagine if God was like me or like you or like any of us? How much could have judged the world? Do you know how many sinners are in this world? And yes, God in his justice respects your will and respects your personality and respects your decisions.
Yes.
It's not bad. Not that he doesn't see them as bad, but justice tells him, give him fair hearing, give him opportunity, give him time. That's justice. And God does that so that he brings it out completely. May we be just to one another. May we be just how we deal with people. I want to say one more little thing. It's the love of God. The love. You remember Peter is writing two different types of love. Brotherly love and then the charity. Brotherly love is big sum, you and me, that helps me understand you and helps you understand me. It's for brotherly. That's why it's called brotherly love. But the agape love is the one that calls a sinner your brother. It's the one that calls your enemy your friend. It's the one that calls a dirty man, welcome to my house.
It goes beyond.
It goes beyond the boundaries that have been set by the perimeters of our human nature. This is what God has called us. And ladies and gentlemen, this is where we build the moral excellence. So that there's dignity in your life. So that there is, there's dignity in your life. There is these principles that are eternal. And then there's excellence in your life. So I call upon us as a nation. I call upon us as people, as a church. I call upon everybody listening to me at this time. Please, if you've surrendered your life to Christ, surrender it fully. Surrender it fully. So you build dignity for yourself. You build dignity for everybody else. Excellence. The way you do your things, do your work with excellence. Commit yourself to eternal values.
Wow.
And that, in the nation, if we do that in the nation, we're going to turn this nation upside down. Government will find ease. There will be no people in Luzira prisons. There will be no people in these police stations. The police will have very little work. They will have the right work to do, but not just fighting with people. They will have a right work to do because everybody has excellence in his life and desires to have dignity of himself.
Wow.
God help
I cannot even repeat these words. May God really help. This is a pinch to many of us. And of course, I was trying to think about for God and my country, a country that has put God first. And then you put the figures right there and you say, we are actually a Christian nation. 80% Christian.
We are.
May God have mercy upon us. May God have mercy upon you watching us right now. And the words of the bishop today, I know they were a little bit sharp, but you need to get into the drive seat. Because if you don't, they always say charity begins at home. But I change it. I say charity begins with you.
Yeah.
You got to be the one to drive it.
Yeah.
And I love the three words.
Dignity. Excellence.
Excellency.
Yes. And
eternal
love, principles.
Those eternal principles. If you can have that in your life is not going to be the same. Like usual.
And it's the whole reason Jesus came for. To restore that dignity to you. He doesn't want to drive you. Some people think God drives us. No. He created you to be a dignitary yourself. That's what he did. So that excellency, he gave us the whole universe for us to make beauty out of it.
Oh my God.
He also allowed us to use these things for eternal principles.
Yes, sir.
Then his prayer would be achieved as it is done in heaven. So it's done here.
Well, I know, beloved, our time is first prayed, but I would love you to take a moment when the bishop seals this with a prayer and your life is not going to be the same. You can touch your chest and let the bishop speak a word to your life. Come on, Bishop.
Father, I want to thank you
Yes,
for
Lord.
those that have listened to me. The great of our nation
Yes.
and the small of our nation. The great of our church and the small of our church. All of us are caught up in this issue.
Yes, Jesus.
How we long to be like Jesus. I pray that, Lord, that person there longing for you, that you make a revelation of yourself into that heart. That Jesus would come down and say, I am the soil that you can plant your life on. And that person's life can be planted onto the soil of Jesus Christ. And out of that will grow dignity, will grow excellency, and will grow eternal values. Save that person in the name of Jesus. Meet it at the point of need and help them to carry the cross as they walk into a place where they will be sanctified daily by the power of the Spirit of God to bring out of them the moral excellence. We give you praise and glory in Jesus' name.
Beautiful words right there. Wrapping up with a prayer. I know your life is not the same again. Remember, this program airs every Sunday at 7:30. And if it's about Christian focus, we touch in those areas in our Christian life that will help us align our lives with the work of God. And we'll be in the path of righteousness. And of course, for those of you that want to write to us, our contacts are just right there. I want to thank the team that is with me, and of course our D producer, Mr. Kyomuhen, in his absentia right now. I want to say thank you for allowing us to have a moment on national television, the management of UBC. I want to thank my producer, Patrick Owino, and of course my PA, Noah, for every time of being there to make sure that this program is aired. Go out there, become positive, do the right things, and we put the banner of Christ up on high. Big Sam signing out. Christian Focus. There's a lot coming up after me. Don't go away.